Hello everyone, my name is Tolusha Francis, and this is your first time on my channel. Please do not forget to subscribe. Now on this channel, I discuss things related to mental health as it affects everything about you, your productivity, your work life, your relationship, your sex life, name it. As long as it has to do with you, I bring in the mental health perspective into that. And so if this is your first time on this channel, please don't forget to subscribe and also turn the notification bell so that whenever a new video drops, you'll be amongst the first set of people to know. Please go ahead right now, turn the subscription button, and I will join you. Now we go to our future presentation. Don't go anywhere. Hello everyone, my name is Tolusha Francis, and this is your first time on my channel. Please do not forget to subscribe. Now on this channel, I discuss things related to mental health as it affects everything about you, your productivity, your work life, your relationship, your sex life, name it. As long as it has to do with you, I bring in the mental health perspective into that. And so if this is your first time on this channel, please don't forget to subscribe and also turn the notification bell so that whenever a new video drops, you'll be amongst the first set of people to know. Please go ahead right now, turn the subscription button, and I will join you. Now we go to our future presentation. Don't go anywhere. Hey, welcome to my YouTube channel once again. My name is Tolusha Francis, and this particular episode, I'm going to be discussing something with you. But first, let me ask you this question. Have you ever lied to your therapist? Have you at any point in time told your therapist an unedited truth? Now, edited truth means that it's partly true, but it's also not partly true in the sense that you didn't give full information. I mean, for whatever reason. Okay, don't worry. I feel we all have been there at some point in our lives. Even I myself have been there before, right, where I didn't tell my therapist everything. But that doesn't make it right. Now, there are some bad sides, a whole lot of bad sides to not telling your therapist the truth. And that's what we'll be exploring in this video right now. And so this video is about lying in therapy. 6 lies not to tell to your therapist. All right, now, lying in therapy is a thing, right? But when you aren't honest with your therapist, you are cheating yourself. That's just the honest truth. You will be cheating yourself. And here's why many people do it and how I may be able to help you or why you need to stop. Let me put it that way. Like I said earlier, everyone lies in therapy. That's just the honest truth. Okay, so you may want to beat me because I said everyone lies in therapy. But if you check it really, all right, ask your friends around, ask your therapist and ask, hey, has anybody ever lied to you? The truth is sometimes as therapists, we may not even find out early enough that someone has been lying to us or that our client or our patient has been lying to us until after a while. But the truth is who really suffers it? The client, right now. If the biggest lie I ever told my therapist was when I was going through my therapy sessions, all right, and I wasn't feeling okay, I wasn't fine, and my therapist would call me, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling well, I'm good, but actually, deep down within me, I knew that I wasn't feeling fine, right, but I just didn't want to come out to tell her that I wasn't feeling well, all right. Even when I was tired of everything, she would ask me and I said, well, everything is going on well, I'm fine, everything is okay, when I truly believed that nothing was going on well, right, okay. I know full well that if you don't reveal the important details, that is sometimes because you are embarrassed by them, you are cheating yourself. Not revealing the truth can interfere with your progress and stall your personal growth. Now, if you're working with a therapist and you want this therapist to help you, when you do not reveal everything that you're experiencing, it's going to stall your growth, it's going to affect your healing process, and you're going to give your therapist more work to do. All right, so it's very important, very, very important, not even pretty important, very important that you tell your therapist nothing but the truth. Now, you may begin to ask yourself, but why on earth would someone lie? I mean, you've taken your time to look for a therapist, you fill maybe an insurance document, or you fill details in the pre-assessment sheet, you have to pay some money, and yet you go ahead to lie or tell some edited truth of the story and what is actually happening, right? You're not really telling the truth, and each time you do this, all right, you get in the way of your healing. Now, the truth of the matter is, a lot of times different people lie. Sometimes parents lie about keep their true feeling about their children or spouse from the therapist, and may downplay how challenging it is to manage behaviors and their reactions to them. Now, kids may also never admit, for those who take their kids to see a therapist, a child and therapist, for example, they will never admit how painful it is, all right, for them to worry or the depth of their worry about family members. And sometimes lies to a therapist may be truth to a client. I get that too. So perhaps you're lying to a therapist, all right, but it's your own truth. Well, I've heard this thing where they say that there can be two sides to a particular truth. I don't know how true that is, all right, but yes, sometimes a client might feel that I am telling my truth when you're actually lying to your therapist. But which do you think should take precedence? Is it telling the therapist the entire truth, or is it telling the therapist what you think it's your own version of the truth? I think that you should go straight ahead and tell the whole truth rather than just edit it and then just tell the therapist what you think is the truth. All right, but then let me tell you something very interesting that I found. I'm going to read it. Now, you may think that your therapist will be able to tell when you're lying. However, a 2020 review published in Frontiers of Psychology notes that nonverbal behaviors usually assumed to be associated with lying, that is, avoiding eye contact, fidgeting, restless leg movement, are not reliable indicators of truth telling versus lying. Now, I'll explain that briefly. Now, usually, there are nonverbal behaviors that we look out for when you approach a therapist, right? And when we say nonverbal, it means that there are things they're unspoken with your mouth. Your lips are not saying them, but we watch your reaction. So, for example, your leg movement, are you fidgeting? Are you able to make eye contact? All right. It is believed that when a person is telling a lie, you're unable to make eye contact. Although I believe strongly that is changing these days. People lie with their eyes wide open, But at the end of the day, you would realize that these non-verbal cues are not enough, all right, for a psychologist or a therapist to detect that a client is actually lying when they come in for therapy. All right. Now, so let's see why people lie in therapy. Now, people lie in therapy because of the following reasons, and I'm just going to give you about 6 reasons why people may lie in therapy. Number 1, they are worried about being judged or that the therapist won't like them. Now, the truth of the matter is you're meeting a therapist and you have never met this person before, so it's more or less like you're going to talk to a stranger, right? So I get it that you're not so sure if you can trust this person. You're not so sure if this person would keep your things confidential, right? You're not so sure if this person will keep so let's see why people lie in therapy. People who lie in therapy do so because of the following reason. I'm just going to share with you briefly. One is they are worried about being judged, all right, or that the therapist won't like them. Now, I get it. You're meeting someone for the first time. This person is like a stranger, all right, and you have never met this person. This person is a stranger, and now you're having to share your life story with that person. So I get it that you may be scared that you're going to be judged, all right, or you just feel like your therapist won't like you. But hey, there is really nothing to fear because you have the opportunity and you have the option of changing your therapist if you're never comfortable with your therapist. There is no rule anywhere in the world that says that you must stick to your therapist when you start. So if things are not going on well with you, remember that you have the right and you have the opportunity to change your therapist. Now, number 2, sometimes they're embarrassed or they feel ashamed about their actions and emotions. So they've done things in the past, they've done a whole lot of things, and they're ashamed of even opening their mouth to even say those things. I get that too. The truth is, you are in therapy or you're going for therapy because you really want to correct some of these things. And so it's okay for you to feel ashamed about the things that you have done, but you also don't have to feel ashamed. Now, you don't have to feel ashamed because your therapist is supposed to be non-judgmental, right? Your therapist is supposed to be non-biased, so to speak, all right? So it's a plain mind, okay? So approach your therapist to that mindset and that belief that what you're sharing with your therapist, there'll be no sense of, ooh, so you did that, wow, tell me more, and stuff like that. So your therapist's job is to listen to you, all right, and show you or lead you or work with you how to arrive at a solution. So you might have done some terrible things in the past. Don't worry about it. That's why you're going to therapy, because you want to change, all right, and you want to live a good life, okay? Now, the third one is if they suspect they have a problem with, say, substance abuse, they're afraid that they're expected to go to rehab or drug treatment. Now, for those who are struggling with substance use or substance abuse, sometimes because they're scared that the therapist or psychologist will send them into rehab, and they don't want to go into rehab because they are going to be secluded, so they really want to lie to the therapist. So, for example, you started this treatment, all right, and your therapist, I mean, you have a session with your therapist and like, hey, so how are you doing? You're like, oh, I'm fine. I've stayed off my drugs for the past 3 weeks, when actually you haven't. All right. So this is also one of the reasons why people lie when they go into therapy. But again, like I always say to people, you don't have to lie. The truth of the matter is you're on a journey, right? Whatever process you're going through, therapy is a journey. It's not a quick fix. All right. So don't expect. I mean, your therapist as well doesn't expect that you start today and you're up and running the next day. No, it takes a while. It's a journey, right? So be confident of your journey and own your journey, and understand that while you may have some drops at some point, it is not a full stop. It is just a comma, and you can always continue, or a full stop and start on a new paragraph, but it's never the end of it at all. Now, they're afraid that the therapist will find that they have a serious problem, for example, eating disorder or sex addiction. Now, it should be noted that many people who engage in self-destructive behaviors also tend to withhold information from their therapist. Now, there are things that we call behavioral changes, right? And so some of these things that are behavioral changes, a lot of times they tend to the people engaged in them tend to lie to their therapists or tend to hold information back. Drug addiction, sex addiction, eating disorders, and stuff like that. Now, it's important to understand that you don't have to hold anything back. Now, the first question to ask yourself is, why am I even going to therapy? Why am I seeking a therapist? It is because you want to get that life done with. It's because you want to be healed. It's because you really want a change. All right. So whenever you're going to talk to your therapist, remind yourself, why exactly am I going to see this person? So each time you're tempted to withhold any form of information or to lie, let that remind you that this is the reason why I am going to see my therapist in the first place. And the final one, that it's difficult to stay in denial if you're beginning to voice the truth out loud, and you may not be ready to deal with the consequences. Now, this is very, very heavy. You may not be ready to deal with the consequences of saying the things that you have done to your therapist. But hey, don't get discouraged. Okay, now your therapist is there to hold you by the hand, all right, and lead you on a journey. Now, most times, in fact, every time when I have reasons to see clients, I tell them that, look, I am not a guru. I am not coming here to give you 5 ways of how to deal with this. No, we are going to work on this journey together. My job is to hold your hand, and then we work together, because you know the things that you have done, all right? But you need someone to help you deal with it or to get out of it. So don't fret, all right? Don't be scared of the consequences that would happen by the time you share that information with anyone, because the truth of the matter is, your therapist is there to work with you, and your therapist is there to lead you on that journey towards you healing. So don't edit the truth. Don't hold any information back. Be truthful to your therapist. Now, lying gets in the way of your healing, and the truth of the matter is, the moment you lie, it begins to affect how you go through that journey. So let's think about lies that you may be tempted to tell your therapist, and why this may actually delay your treatment, and how it can be harmful to your mental health and happiness. Don't go anywhere. Now, welcome back. Now, sometimes we lie. For example, I'll share some tips. Like, number one, my depression isn't really that bad. You know that your depression is bad, all right? You know that you had a very bad day. You know that you probably yelled at someone in the office, and that's not you, right? Now, minimizing the extent of psychological distress or acknowledging how pervasively your day-to-day life is affected has been found to be common in therapy, right? So they ask you, how did your day? Oh, my day was good. It was nice. I had a good day. Whereas you actually had a terrible day. I mean, your day didn't go well. So when you downplay your depression or your anxiety, you may interfere with your therapist recognizing the extent, all right, of the problem, and hinder his or her ability to actually help you. Now, when you do this, it becomes very difficult for your therapist to actually help you on that journey towards recovery, because you are trying to tell your therapist that you are healing, whereas you're not healing. And so he begins to reduce the treatment plan or rearranges the treatment plan, whereas you actually need much more than what your therapist has put together. So don't downplay your depression, right? High functional depression is a real thing, and it's hard, and you don't have to live like that. Okay, so please and please tell your therapist as it is. If you're actually dealing with depression and anxiety, you had a rough day, you had a bad day, you had a terrible day, open up to your therapist about it. Don't edit the truth, don't hold back, say it as it is. All right. Number 2, I never think about suicide. This is another lie. All right, so you've had suicidal thoughts, you've had suicidal ideations, but then your therapist asks you, and you're like, you've never thought about depression, or you never think about it. Sometimes you lie awake wondering what kind of pills you could use, all right, to just end it, or how many might do the job. all right, but you don't want to admit it because you're afraid that your therapist will think that you're really sick and maybe you need to be hospitalized. Hey, come on. The truth of the matter is you're going to make it difficult for your therapist to help you through that journey if you're not able to tell your therapist that you think about suicide. Now, it is not the same way that your therapist would handle depression or depressive mood that he or she would handle a suicidal thought, because a suicidal thought is grievous and no therapist would handle it with levity. And so it's important that you let your therapist know if you're contemplating suicide. If you don't talk about it, your therapist will not be able to assess both the severity of the depression and the likelihood that you might really want to do harm to yourself. So you need to understand your suicidal ideation, which can include a range, right, of perceived wishes and preoccupations with death, and to determine what if there's any suicide intent. So there's suicidal thought, there's ideation, and then there's complete suicide itself. So there is no need for you to lie if you realize that you actually get to think about suicide. Now, the very other one that people lie about the most is about alcohol, right? No, I don't have a problem with alcohol, when indeed you can sit down to clear a crate of alcohol at a sitting, or after drinking, you begin to misbehave and you begin to make a mess of yourself. And so here's some of the things that people tend to say when they want to lie about alcohol. I probably drink more than I should or use drugs too often, but it's only a social thing. I never drink during the week. Well, maybe a glass of wine or two with dinner. I could quit easily if I wanted to. The truth is, you're ashamed about the drinking. That's just the truth. And you're afraid that you'll be judged. That's just the honest truth. But there's no need to lie about it. Because when you lie about substance use, is a big deal, all right? You start from 1 bottle, 2 bottles, 3 bottles, 5 bottles, 10, 20, and you realize that your life depends solely on it, that it cannot function until you have taken these things. There is no difference between taking an alcohol or taking a lot of bottles of alcohol and mixing up and taking some other form of substance like marijuana and the likes. Now, the truth of the matter is these things could be addictive, all right, but it's fine. I mean, for alcohol, how are you able to regulate it? That's why in some countries, they'll tell you that do not sell to persons under the age of 18, do not drink and drive, because of the effect, all right, that these drinks might have on you. All right, so when you begin to discuss your drinking honestly, you and your therapist can decide together, perhaps using a standardized assessment tool. If you need to take steps to curtail your drinking, your therapist can help you. But when you lie to your therapist about your drinking, there is no way your therapist wants to help you. And what you just realize is you spend weeks and months in therapy and you're not getting results because you're lying to your therapist, and it's actually not your therapist's fault. So why waste your time and why waste your money? All right, finally, I never lose my temper with my partner or my child. This is coming from parent to child relationship or partner to partner relationship. You live in a home where you constantly yell at each other, perhaps even beat up each other, and yet you're trying to see a therapist to deal with anger, for example, and then you lie. Let me read to you. So being in an intimate relationship with someone, whether a toddler or a rational adult, is never easy, because these are two people coming together, all right, for the adult relationship. Both of you have your mindsets, you have your philosophies, you have your principles, and then you're trying to blend. But for a parent child or parent toddler, this is a child who perhaps doesn't really know wrong from right, but here you are as an adult and you feel that the child is deliberately doing those things, and you just think you can discipline the child just anyhow. Now, the truth of the matter is, if you have experienced anger, or if you ever find yourself experiencing moments of enragement or feeling enraged and out of control, you need to talk to your therapist. Now, your therapist won't know unless you report it, and your therapist cannot help you unless you do. So you need to talk to your therapist about healthy ways, about what you've been doing, so your therapist can help you with healthy ways to deal with frustration and also determine what triggers your anger and to help you. Now, I'm going to stop there, but before I end it, let me give you something that says here. And it's about intrusive thoughts. Now, a 2019 study found that at least 70% of new mothers have intrusive thoughts about harm to their babies, and 50% report having unwanted thoughts about intentionally harming their infant, such as throwing them down the stairs or putting them into the microwave. Now, this is specifically for new mothers. So there's something called postpartum depression. And the truth of the matter is there is a tendency for women to experience postpartum depression. Now, when this happens, it begins with an intrusive thought. Now, this intrusive thought is thought about you wanting to do something to the child or harming the child. And I just give you that report that says that in 2019, a study found out that 70% of new mothers have intrusive thoughts about harm to their baby. Now, it is not because they want to, it is not because they hate the child, it is just the changes that are happening in their lives. Now, these thoughts very rarely result in actual harm, right? In fact, intrusive thoughts are usually indicative of obsessive compulsive disorder or severe anxiety. And if you go into therapy, what we call cognitive behavioral therapy will sometimes work for you, and it could sometimes be in conjunction with medication. So you need to tell the truth, all right? You need to tell the truth about this whenever you're discussing with your therapist that you're struggling with intrusive thoughts, so your therapist can dig deep into it and help you really overcome it and perhaps change the therapy technique that he or she is using. Now, I said finally, but I need to share this with you. So you go to your therapist, the therapist asks you, so how have I been doing? Like, oh, you are the most wonderful therapist I've ever met. Don't lie to your therapist. If your therapist is not doing well, let him or her know. Like I said earlier on, you have the opportunity and the liberty to change your therapist. So if you're not getting the desired result from your therapist, don't tell your therapist that you're wonderful or you're doing well. Tell your therapist the truth so that he or she may change how he's doing things, or refer you to another therapist that is able to give you the desired result that you need. All right, so there's no need to lie to your therapist. All right, this video is getting too long, so let's wrap it up. Other subjects that are frequently lied about or not discussed include a history of sexual abuse or incest, self-injurious behavior such as cutting, sexual or intimacy difficulties or practices like not being able to satisfy your partner, and money issues. Now, if you take many sessions before you are comfortable opening up about this sensitive subject, it may take many sessions before you're comfortable opening up about some of these subjects. And that's fine, that's understandable, right? But there is no need to lie. The reward of taking the risk of seeing a therapist far outweighs the reward of lying to your therapist. All right, so each time you're going to therapy or you're going to see a therapist, remind yourself, why did I decide to see a therapist in the first place? And let that thought guide you, right? And so even if it takes time, right, for you to open up to your therapist, take your time, right, but never ever lie. Thanks very much for watching this video. Once again, my name is Tolushe Francis, and I'm available, for speaking engagements, both in and out of the country, virtual, physical. I'm also available for booking consultations. You can reach out to me. My email is on the screen, and let's talk. If there are questions that you have, please drop them in the comment section or send them to me and I will do a video to explain them. Once again, thank you, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.